really thank the Lord for this opportunity and that He has made it possible that I can speak to you.
Ngiyambonga kakhulu uNkulunkulu ngaleli thuba elihlelekile ukuba ngikwazi ukukhuluma nani.
My biggest problem this afternoon is that we don't have enough time.
Yona inkinga yami enkulu emini nje ukuthi isikhathi sethu asanele.
We only have 90 minutes. There's no extra time, no penalties.
Sino 90 minutes nje ayikho extra time wona wazebholeni akukho isikhathi sama penalty futhi.
So I'll just ask if we please all listen attentively. If you concentrate, you can understand and grasp more than what you think or what others have maybe made you to believe that you can understand.
Ngakho ke socela ukuba silalelisise kahle sonke ukuze silandele lokukhulunywayo ngoba uma ulalelisisa kahle uzoqonda kangcono nalokhu ucabanga ukuthi uyakwazi uzokwazi kangcono.
Today I want to talk to you about winning big, winning the big one, the big game, about winning that and how to win.
Namhlanje ngithanda ukukhuluma ngani ngokuthi umuntu awine noma aphumelele umncintiswano omkhulu.
In order to win, you have to understand the game.
Ukuze ukwazi ukuthi uphumelele kudinga ukuthi uqonde umdlalo sokudlala.
You have to understand who you are, you have to understand who your opponent is, and you have to understand your own approach, your own plan, as well as his plan, so that you can counter him.
Ukuze ukwazi ukuphumelela emidlalweni ngesikhathi yodlala kumele uziqonde wena ukuthi udlala kanjani wazi nale team osuke uyodlala nayo ukuthi yona idlala kanjani ikuphi la bebuthaka khona ikuphi abakwazi ukwenza ukuze uma usuwazi kahle ukuthi benza kanjani iplan lakho ulakhele phezulu kwalokho.
I want us to start seeing life not just as a game, but as a battle, as a tournament, as something that we have to run in order to gain a prize.
Kodwa ngithanda ukuba sibukeke impilo kungewona nje umdlalo kuphela kodwa sikuthathe njengento esemqoka esazi ukuthi sigijimela ukuthola umncintiswano.
I'm not going to expect you to join me on a fun run of 10 kilometers. That won't get you anywhere in life.
Ngeke ngikulindele ukuthi ungijoin ekutheni siyogijima umgijimo ka 10 km ngeke ukusise ndawo lokho.
We want to go for something like the Comrades Marathon.
Kodwa ngifuna ukuba sigijime okukhulu kunalokho sigijima umncintiswano lo weComrades.
Like the World Cup or the Olympics. We want to go for the best.
Noma siye kwiWorld Cup noma ama-Olympic la umhlaba wonke singathatha okuncane kodwa siye kokuphezulu.
But to get you on board, I want us to just take a few lessons from the game of soccer because I think a lot of us can relate to soccer.
Kodwa phambi ukuthi siye phambili ngithanda ukuba sithathe izifundo ezimbalwa esithola emidlalweni webhola ngoba ngicabanga ukuthi abaningi bethu baliqonda ibhola.
As we said, we are serious about this.
Njoba sishilo ukuthi sizimisele ngalokhu.
There's no extra time.
Sishilo ukuthi nesikhathi esinaso sanele nje ayikho extra time kulomdlalo.
Remember, we mean business. This is not a stadium. And if you're going to make a noise, you're going to miss what I actually want you to see.
Manje silalelisane asilalelani ke lokho esikukho ku serious. Uma uzoloko ubanga umsindo uzogcina ulahlekela ungasalandeli kahle lokhu esikhuluma ngakho la phambili.
Right from the beginning, you need to understand that life is not always and often it's not what it seems to be. It's not what you see. There's much more to it.
Kumele siqonde sikubambe lokhu ukuthi impilo kaningi ayigcini kulokho esikwaziyo thina kulokho esikubonayo thina kodwa impilo ingaphezulu kwalokho.
Okay, so we're just going to watch a few clips. I want you to be totally quiet so that you don't miss what you need to see.
Manje ke sizobuka nje ama video amafushana ambalwa engiphinda ngigcizelela ukuthi ngicela ukuthi sithule kahle ukuze silandele lokhu makunomsindo uzogcina ulahlekela ukuthi kwenziwani.
Don't just look at the ball, look at the whole picture.
Ungabuki nje ibhola kuphela kodwa ubuke wonke lo mdlalo.
I don't know if you saw what I saw.
Ngani uma nibonile lokho engikubonile?
Who scored the goal?
Bano Corin.
Was it that man?
Iyo leyansizwe Corin.
No, you think he scored the goal.
Ngicabanga ukuthi yena Corin.
There were probably between 20 and 50, if not more, people involved in scoring that goal.
Bekunabantu abaningi mhlamba about 20, 50 noma ngaphezulu ababengxenye ukora lela goal.
But to the ignorant person who just looks at the ball, sits in the stands, enjoys making a noise, watches the game, for them, that's the person who scored the goal.
Kodwa ke emntwini ongaqondi hlele stadium ibukela nje ibhola bayamemeza kuyena ubona nje lo muntu kuyena ukorile.
There is a huge team of managers, coaches, trainers, analysts, technical staff, reserves, and the whole soccer team who have to work together according to a plan to score those goals.
Kunabantu abaningi ithimba eliningi abaphathi abacwaningayo coach abantu abaningi abasebenza lo msebenzi ukuze ugcine kukorwe leliya goal.
Most of the time, most of you don't even know those people, you've never seen them, you don't even know they're on the team.
Isikhathi esiningi abanye benu anibazi nokubazi labo bantu anazi nokuthi bayingxenye yalelo team lebhola.
We spoke about understanding the game.
Sikhuluma ukuthi kumele uqonde umdlalo.
There's a lot of work that goes into training and in the change room where they put up pictures and they draw arrows and they point out different players and they plan who's going to mark who and who's going to distract who and how are we going to neutralize the good player on the other team.
Kuba nomsebenzi omningi kuze kudwetshwe kubeka amabhodi lapha e-change room la behlana khona abadlali la kuplanwa khona ukuthi lo mdlalo esiyakuwona sobhekana nawo kanjani kuze kushuthe umdlalo walela team besodlala nalo nango ingozi anomqaphela anoza kuyena ngalendlela.
Every game, every sport, or even a real battle has got a battlefield there where the rubber hits the road, where it actually happens.
Ilona lo mdlalo kuba khona indawo la singathi impi isuke ishuse khona la kukade kuhlelwa yonke into ukuthi kuzohamba kanjani.
And every competition, every battle, there's a reward, there's a trophy, there's something to be won.
Ilona lo mncintiswano, ilona leyo mpi kusuke khona into ezozuzwa ekugcineni.
In soccer, the battlefield is that pitch with in the stadium.
Uma sikhuluma ngomdlalo webhola la impi banjwa khona ibanjele stadium.
I don't know if you remember this World Cup, 2010. It was the World Cup final here in South Africa. That is the trophy to be won in that competition.
Angazi noma siyakhumbula yini ukuthi ngo2010 sasine World Cup final yadlalwa khona la kwelakithi eNingizimu Afrika indebe le ababedlalela.
And that was the battlefield.
Ifinali yayibanjwe kule stadium.
That's the biggest stadium in South Africa, as far as I know, in Johannesburg.
Ngokwazi kwami isona stadium esikhulu lesikunazo zonke la eNingizimu Afrika esile eGoli.
Do you know that you and your brothers and sisters and your children are also a trophy which is being fought for in another battle?
Uyazini uthi wena nodadewenu nabafowenu seniphenduke indebe elwelwayo kwenye yezimpi ezikhona na.
And this is the battlefield.
Lempi ilwelwa la kuleli balazwe silibonayo.
That's a map of the world. It's being fought right across the world, but it's one war, one battle, one game.
Ibalazwe ke lezwe lonke leli silibona la screenini lempi eliwayo ilwa kwizwe lonke leli kodwa yimpi eyodwa.
South Africa is that tiny little country, more or less in the middle of the map, right at the bottom, the dark green, just below Namibia.
Iningizimu Afrika ke kuleli balazwe elikhulukazi kangaka emhlabeni wonke silela chashaza elincane lapha eAfrika elisezantsi ekugcineni.
To the left, you've got Canada and the United States of America. Below that, Brazil, Argentina, and other Southern American countries.
Namayambazo njengo Brazil, o South America, Argentina namanye.
And above the continent of Africa, you've got all those tiny little countries that make up Western Europe. That's where a lot of the money of the world is centered, in Western Europe and in America.
Ngaphezu kweAfrika uthola amazwe ase Ntshonalanga neEurope, amazwe la ame kahle kakhulu ngokwezomnotho.
And there is a battle being played out on that pitch for your life, for your soul, for your freedom, and for your future.
Kukhona impi enkulu elwayo elwela umphefumulo wakho, elwela nekusasa lakho.
And do you know who the two owners are of the teams?
Uyazi ukuthi ke lama thimba lawa akulempi noma kulomncintiswano aphethwe ubani na?
It's a battle between light and darkness.
Uyimpi le ebhekene nokukhanya nobumnyama.
The Lord Jesus has got his sign that represents him. We all know it's the cross that he himself died on for our sin to be able to set us free.
uJesu umene enophawu lwakhe esilaziyo, uphawu lwesiphambano esaziyo ukuthi sona esakhululwa ngaso.
And then there is Satan, and he has got his team members and his analysts and his managers and his agents, some of whom know that they are working for him, some of whom do not even know that he is using them and that they are part of his game plan.
Kukhona ke noSathane nezisebenzi zakhe nama managers akhe khona bamcubungelela izinto, abanye babo bayazi ukuthi bamsebenzela kodwa abanye bamsebenzela bengazi nokuthi bayisebenzi zakhe.
Now the question is, do things just happen? When things happen around you, when things happen in the world, do you think it's just good luck or bad luck? It just happened to happen? Or is there a game plan? Is there a strategy that is being played out?
Manje umbuzo ukuthi ngabe izinto mazenzeka wena uzibona ukuthi hayi ziyazenzakalela nje noma khona icebo elikhona ngalezi zinto ezenzakalayo khona abakuhlosile ukuthi kwenze ngaleyo ndlela.
Now, I want to take a bit of a step back.
Manje ngithanda ukuthi ngithi ukuhlehla kancane
To go to understand the opposition.
ukuthi ukuze uqonde lo oncintisana naye noma obhekene naye.
As you saw in soccer, it's not just about training and practicing your own fitness and your own plan. You also have to study the game plan of the opposition to be able to respond in the correct way.
Njengoba ke sesishilo ukuthi nasebholeni awudingi uqonda kuphela elakho iqembu neplan lakho ukuthi wena uhlele kanjani, kodwa kudinga wazi neplan lalaba oyobhekana nabo ukuthi bona bayihlele kanjani.
Paul said that we are not ignorant of the devil's schemes.
uPaul uthi asibona abantu abangazi ngamacebo kaSathane.
Okay, so we want to understand, get a better behind the scenes understanding of the institutions and the powers that Satan uses to his benefit in the battle that he is fighting for our lives.
Sifuna ukuba siqonde sazi namacebo neindlela uSathane azisebenzisayo afuna ukuzuza ngazo impilo zethu.
As I said, they may be aware of it, they may be malicious, they may also not be aware that Satan is using them, but if you look at their deeds, you realize Satan is making use of that to win his battle.
Kodwa njengoba ngishilo abanye mhlawumbe abazi ukuthi bayamsebenzela uSathane, mhlawumbe bayazi, kodwa mawubuka izenzo ziyaveza ukuthi kunomsebenzi kaSathane abawenzayo.
So as in soccer, you've got the owner of the club, you've got managers, you've got technicians, physiotherapists, assistant coaches, you've got the players, and you've even got the spectators who don't know much of what's happening behind the scene, but they are there on the day to spur the players on and to make a lot of noise.
Njengasebholeni ke njoba sazi ukuthi ibhola ukhona umphathi we-team, chairman, kube khona ama managers asebenza nawo, team manager, kube no coach, assistant coach, nodokotela bayi-team, kube abadlali bese kuba khona ke nabalandeli abangazi abaningi babo ukuthi ikuphi okwenzakalayo ngale ekuhlelweni kwezinto ze-team, kodwa bayafika emidlalweni bezosupporta, bamemeze besupporta ithimba lawo.
Okay, so if we go a few steps up, not right to the top, but some of the institutions in the world that are playing out or they are playing into the devil's hands, or they are knowingly playing his game.
Masithi ukukhuphuka ke noma sengaphezulu kakhulu sibuke ezinye zeinhlangano ezikhona okungenzeka ukuthi zenza izinto zidlala umdlalo lo kaSathane njoba silo ukuthi mhlambe bayazi ukuthi basebenzela yena mhlambe abazi futhi.
So you know every country has a government, we've got a president, ministers, etc. But then there are organizations in the world like the United Nations. It's many different nations that come together, they form policies, and they agree on things in which direction they want to steer the world.
Siyazi ukuthi amazwe kuba nomongameli, usekela mongameli, cabinet lakhe, kodwa ngaphandle nje kohulumeni lo phethizwe kukhona ezinye inhlangano njenge United Nations, izizwe ezihlangene la amazwe amaningi ehlangana khona kuhlela izinto, kuhlela imithetho njalo njalo.
It's important you start to understand this. Because if you're going to remain ignorant of this, the devil's going to kick you around like a soccer ball.
Kumele ukuthi siqonde lokhu sikwazi ngoba uma singakunaki singazazi izinto njengalezi usathane uyosikhahlela kwebhola.
And these people get together and they make plans of how to control the people in the world. Through education is one, and in many other ways.
Laba bantu ke bahlangana laba abayizikhulu iziphathimandla zalenhlangano bahlela izinto ukuthi abantu babo njengomongameli bezwe bazobaphatha kanjani ezintweni ezahlukene imfundo eminye imikhakha abayibukayo.
Now, a part of their strategy and part of Satan's strategy to be able to control people and to steer them in the way, in the direction that he wants to steer them, is to control their mind.
Enye indlela abayisebenzisayo futhi kuyindlela esetshenziswa uSathane ukuthi umuntu ukwazi ukumbamba indlela ukuthi ungakontrola ingqondo yakhe.
God's word tells us that we have been fearfully and wonderfully made.
Izwi likaNkulunkulu liyasho ukuthi thina sakhiwe kahle ngendlela eyisimanga.
And your mind is one of the greatest gifts that God has given you. And if you use it as He has meant it to be, it will help you to remain free.
Ingqondo ezinye zezipho uNkulunkulu asiphe zona mayisetshenziswa kahle ingakusiza ukuba nawe uhlale uwumuntu okhululekile.
The strategy of the devil is to shrink your mind.
Sathane indlela aqhamuka ngayo ukuzama ukuthi awubambe umqondo wakho.
He wants your mind to be lazy, to be unfit, and that you use your mind less and less.
Ufuna ukuba ingqondo yakho ivilaphi ube ivila ekuyisebenziseni ingqondo yakho nezinga lakho lokuyisebenzisa liye ngokwehla lishona phansi.
So we want to counter that by exercising our mind. We're going to do some stretching exercises. You know, warm-ups before you start training, you do some stretching exercises.
Manje sifuna ukuthi siphambaneke thina nalokho kodwa siwusebenzise umqondo wethu size sivocavoce njengoba ebholeni phamuthi baqale umdlalo bayangena bathi ukutrainer phamuthi badlala.
One way of stretching your mind, exercising your mind, is to start to ask questions.
Enye indlela yokuthi umqondo wakho usebenzise ukuthi ubuze imibuzo.
And that's the one thing that Satan doesn't want you to do, because he doesn't want to have to tell you the truth.
Enye izinto ke lezo uSathane angafuni ukuba uyenze ngoba akafuni ukuthi wazi iqiniso.
So if you get lost in the questions we're going to ask, don't stress about that.
Uma uzolahleka kweminye imibuzo esizoyibuza ungayihluphi.
You're not going to have all the answers today.
Ngeke ube nazo zonke izimpendulo namhlanje.
We're just starting to loosen up our mind, to start thinking and asking questions, to realize that there is more to everything than what we see.
Siyaqala nje siyazama ukuthi siwusebenzise umqondo wethu ukuze siqonde ukuthi kukhona okungale okukhulu kunaloko esikubonayo thina.
Now back to the United Nations, and one of the other organizations that work together with them is the World Economic Forum, where all the people with the big money in the world get together and decide how are they going to control the money in the world and what are they going to do with it.
Sikhulumile nge-United Nations enye inhlangano ezikhona i-World Economic Forum la behlangana khona abanemnotho emkhulu bezobheka ukuthi imali yabo bangayisebenzisa kanjani.
The United Nations have often been involved in African countries.
Le nhlangano ye-United Nations kaningi iyangenelela ezintweni ezenzeka emazweni ala eAfrika.
Many of the powerful people in the world, like Bill Gates and your American powerhouse, your European powerhouse, many of those people are involved in these organizations.
Abantu abaningi abanemali izigwili zomhlaba njengo Bill Gates abantu abaqhamuka le ko Europe njalo njalo bayangenelela into ezenziwa ilenhlangano United Nations.
Have you ever asked yourself, why is it that there are so many civil wars in African countries?
Usukwayibuza yini ukuthi kudalwa yini ukuthi kube nezimpi ezingaka emazweni ala eAfrika?
But you don't find the same civil wars in Western European countries and in America.
Kodwa lezo zimpi uyithola nje la eAfrika awuyitholi le eWestern Europe noma emazweni angaphansi kweAmerica.
It's just a question. Maybe you've never asked yourself that question.
Umbuzo nje mhlamba ukazi uzibuze wona.
But it's not because Africans, us from Africa, are more hooligans than the Europeans and the Americans. Just go to their football matches, then you'll know who is more a hooligan than another one.
Kodwa lokho akuchaza ukuthi thina bantu bala eAfrika sabala eAfrika sabantu abathanda impi kakhulu ukudlula laba abanye bako Europe. Empeleni ungayobuka makudlala imidlalo yabo ebhola ubone ukuthi baziphatha kanjani bona.
Have you ever asked yourself, why are so many African countries poor in comparison to European countries?
Amaningi ala eAfrika empofu uma uqhathanisa namazwe aphesheya na.
And then you have these foreigners from Europe and America becoming involved in African countries. They get our governments to work together with them, but still there's poverty.
Utholeke inhlangano lezi nabantu abaqhamuka kulamazwe angaphandle bezama ukuzosebenzisana nohulumeni bethu la eAfrika kodwa phezkwalokho sisala sisempofu.
That's our president. He's having a discussion with the founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab.
Uyena ke ubaba umongameli wethu lo ekhuluma nomqambi walenhlangano iWorld Economic Forum.
Okay, just remember, you need to concentrate, otherwise you're going to fall off the bus.
Kumbulani ke sithe kumele silandelane kahle mawungalandelisisi kahle uzoqatha kaphansi kuleli bhasi usala.
Okay, listen to what he says.
Ake silalele ukuthi bathini la.
Not at this conversation, on another occasion.
Kungeyona lengxoxo le kodwa kwenye ingxoxo.
We will use our leadership and membership of SADC, our membership of BRICS, and the G20, the Commonwealth, and many other international bodies to forge a new world order founded on equality,
So he commits that he will work together with other organizations to form a new world order.
Ubake bekhuluma lapha umongameli wethu uthi bazosebenzisana nezinye inhlangano United Nations, BRICS, G8 ukuba hlanganyele ndawonye kwakhiwe lento ebizwa ukuthi i-New World Order.
So our government is working together with people whom we've never met, whom we don't know, who have got a lot of power in the world, to form a new world order, to decide, they are deciding with these people what we should believe, what we should be taught, how we should be treated.
Abaholi bethu basebenzisana nabanye abantu abahlukene abanye singabazi nokubazi kodwa bakhuluma nalabo abantu baplan ikusasa lethu kanye nabo labantu ukuthi siyophathwa kanjani izinto ziyohamba kanjani.
Have you ever asked yourself why all of a sudden is our government so desperate that our children must be taught sex education at school?
Usukwayibuza yini lo mbuzo ukuthi ngani manje uhulumeni wakithi uphuthuma kangaka ufuna ukuthi izingane zethu esikoleni manje sekumele zifundiswe ngezocansi, sex education.
Something that you have never found in our country for generations before us, but suddenly now government feels it's very important.
Into bungayitholi bihlonishwa kungakhulunywa ngayo ezweni lakithi kusukela kudala, kodwa manje kuhulumeni wamanje sebefuna ukuthi kube yinto eyenzakalayo.
You can't say they got it from our parents or from our grandparents, our ancestors, because it wasn't there.
Ngeke ukuthi lokhu bakuthatha kubazali bethu, bakuthatha kokhokho bethu, komkhulu bethu ngoba kwakungekho.
So where do they get these ideas from?
Manje ke lezi zinto bazithatha.
Why is it so important to government that all of a sudden a child should have access to abortion at school, possibly even without the parents' knowledge? Something which our parents, grandparents, they didn't need that to be able to live their lives. That is not who they were, but suddenly it's important that we must change and be like that.
Ngani manje uthi kube into elula nje uthi ingane ingakwazi ukuthi yohushula isisu isesesikoleni, kube into futhi engadingi nemvume kamzali ukuba ikwazi ukuyenza.
If our government is not only listening to us and our parents and looking at our history and taking from that what is good to us, if they are also talking to people in Europe and America and getting ideas from them, and we see these things being rolled out in our country, should we not ask the question, who is our government truly serving?
Uma hulumeni bakithi abasiphethe bezoletha izinto ezingasukeli kokhokho bethu emlandweni wakithi kuswela kudala, futhi kuyizinto abazikhuluma nabantu bangaphandle le ko-Europe, le kulamanye amazwe, kumele sibuze umbuzo ukuthi obani kanti uhulumeni wethu okhuluma nabo.
Whose interests do they really have at heart? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
Sibabuza ukuthi kanti bafuna bona ukuthi basize obani abadinga ukuthi babasize. Usukayibuza lo mbuzo.
These days we heard about the Bella Bill. A lot of people opposed it, where government wants to have more and more control over the children of South Africa, more control even than the parents who brought those children into the world.
Sizwile ngomthetho okuhlozwa kulezi insuku kuthiwa iBella Bill, la okuhlozwa khona ukuthi uhulumeni uyoba namandla amakhulu phezu kweingane ukudlula ngisho abazali.
Ever since Adam and Eve, your parents, your grandparents, your ancestors, they brought up their children and the next generation and the next generation, and suddenly now government knows better what is good for you and what you should be taught at school, to the point that if your parents do not agree that government may control what you are taught, they should go to jail.
Kusukela kudala okhokho bethu omkhulu bethu bakhulisa izizukulwane ngezizukulwane zilandelana, bekwenza futhi ngempumelelo. Ngani manje sekungazi ukuthi uhulumeni uyena osengenza kangcono kunabo na?
There's not time today to join all the dots for you, to draw you the whole picture, but even if there's just enough that makes you to wake up and to look around and to think, but you know what? Maybe I should ask myself these questions.
Samba sikho isikhathi esanele namhlanje sokuthi sihlanganise konke amachashazi ukuthi kuya kuphi, kodwa kukunika nje kukuvulela nje curtain isikancane ukuze uqale ukuzibuza nawe ukuthi sibheke phi kanti.
Is there an agenda behind what government is bringing to us?
Kukhona yini okunye okungale okufihliwe okuseceleni kulokhu uhulumeni ezama ukusilethela khona na?
Is there an agenda that's coming from foreign world powers like the UN and the World Economic Forum that is being funneled to us through our government because they have committed to cooperate with those organizations?
Kungenzeka yini ukuthi khona izinto ezinye eziqhamuka ngo-United Nations, eziqhamuka nangazi inhlangano le World Economic Forum esingazazi kodwa ezizoqhamuka sezifakwa ngohulumeni wakithi.
I spoke about one of the game plans of the enemy is to shrink your mind, that you stop thinking for yourself and that you stop believing that you have got the ability to think for yourself.
Bangishilo ukuthi amanye amacebo esitha ukuzama ukubamba umqondo wakho wenza ube mfushane ukuze ungabi sakwazi ukuzicabangela futhi ungayitshela ukuthi ungaba umuntu ongazicabangela yena.
They want you to believe that without government you are lost. If government doesn't spoon feed you exactly what you must be taught at school, you are lost, as if your parents don't even exist.
Bafuna ukuthi bakufake umqondo ukuthi ngaphandle kukahulumeni umuntu olahlekile wena awukwazi ukuzicabangela, kumele ukuthi impilo yakho yonke incike kuyena uhulumeni. Uma yena engakukhangezanga ukudla, engakukhangeza ukuthi ezemfundo zimele zihambe kanjani, phelile ngawo.
Now, I'm not saying grants are bad and that there are not people who are truly needy who need those grants. But if they get it into your mind to believe that unless government's going to look after me, unless they're going to give me grants, I've got no chance in life.
Angisho ukuthi ama grant izibonelelo lezi esizitholayo zengane nabantu abadala kanjalo ukuthi kubi, kodwa uma ngabe ungagcina ususemqondweni wokuthi ngincike kwisibonelelo kuphela, ngincike ukuthi uze ngiphile nje kumele ngiphile ngegrant, akusambi kahle la, akusambi kahle la.
Do you recognize this picture?
Siyasibona lesithombe ukuthi sabani.
I don't know if it's a painting or a portrait, but you find it all over of the Zulu King Shaka.
Isithombe lesi usithola kaningi esiveza ilembe inkosi uShaka.
When the Zulu clan was just a small group of people, he raised it up to be a mighty nation.
Uyena ungumqambi wesizwe sakwaZulu owasikhulisa futhi ukuze kube isizwe esikhulu.
Till today they make films and movies about his life and what he achieved.
Kuze kube namhlanje kwenziwa amafilimu ngaye nangempilo yakhe nangalokhu yena akuzuza ngesikhathi ehola isizwe samaZulu.
He's world famous.
Uyaziwa umhlaba wonke.
Who can tell me at that time how much government was paying people in grants?
Ubani ongangitshela ukuthi ngalesi sikhathi kusabusa ilembe babeba ngakho abantu ababekade bethola izibonelelo lezi kuhulumeni.
For him to achieve what he achieved, how much did he depend on grants from politicians?
Ukuze yena finyelele kulokho afinyelela khona kunganani ekade kuthola kuyisibonelelo esasuka kuhulumeni na.
There was not one politician at the time.
Ngaleso sikhathi sokubusa kwalo ilembe kwakungekho sopolitiki.
There were no grants.
Kwakungekho mali yesibonelelo esiqhamuka kuhulumeni.
So how did they do it?
Pho baphila kanjani?
Because he used his mind.
Ngoba wayesebenzisa umqondo.
He was a master strategist.
Wayesebenzisa umqondo ekhaliphile.
And he united people.
Wabahlanganisa futhi abantu.
and they used their hands. They went to the fields, they planted food, they hunted, they sustained themselves. They didn't need any government, and they became a mighty nation.
basebenzisa izandla zabo, basebenzisa umqondo, basebenza, balima, abadinganga ukuthi balekelelwe ezinye izizwe.
We need to understand, get a better understanding of what is behind the powers that influence our government, who make the laws that control us.
Kudinga ukuba siqonde sazi ukuthi obani abafaka umoya nabafaka umthelela kohulumeni abagcina benza imithetho esiphila ngaphansi kwayo thina.
There's a man, his name is called Yuval Noah Harari. He's an advisor to many of those people whom you saw in the picture who lead these world organizations.
Kukhona indoda ekuthiwa uNoah Harari owumeluleki walabantu abaningi omongameli laba abahlangana kwizigungu lezi ezibusa umhlaba wonke.
He's often in the media, he's often in public saying things. I want you to listen to some of the things he says so that you can understand the mindset, the psychology of our opponent.
Manje ke lo muntu lo oluleka omongameli bethu uyahamba ndaweni uyakhuluma futhi inkulumo eziningi. Ngifuna ukuthi nike nilalele nizwe ukuthi umuntu obelulekayo ukhuluma kanjani.
We should get used to the idea that we are now basically the gods of planet Earth. We have now divine powers of creation and destruction.
He says we are now the gods of planet Earth. We have divine power of creation and destruction.
Uthi thina ke esobona sesiyithixo zalomhlaba esiphila kuona sinamandla amaningi namacebo amaningi esingaba nawo okwakha nokuchitha.
And when he says these things, he is talking to an audience of all these powerful people in the world who then come and tell our government how to forge a new world order.
Manje lezi zinto usuke ezikhuluma kubaholi bethu ababuye bahlangane bathi bafuna manje ukuthi kuhlanganiswe lento ye-new world order.
Listen what he says.
Ulalele futhi.
I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news.
We don't need to wait for Jesus Christ to come back to Earth in order to overcome death. A couple of geeks in a laboratory can do it.
We don't have to wait until Christ's second coming in order to overcome death. A couple of geeks in a laboratory can do it, if you give them enough time and money.
You have a lovely passage where you say, looking at the world today, God seems to be making a comeback, but this is a mirage. God is dead, it just takes a while to get rid of the body.
Ngamanye amazwi akanankinga ukuhlambalaza nokumhlambalaza uNkulunkulu uJesu Kristu. Uthi lokhu ukuthi uJesu Kristu wasifela wavuka ekufeni inganekwane leyo. Usho njalo. Uthi uNkulunkulu ufile. Akanankinga ukuhlambalaza. Uyena oluleka laba bantu aba ophathimandla emhlabeni.
He just blasphemes so easily, and this is the person who's an advisor to these world leaders.
Now, I said that one of the big strategies of the game plan is to get control of your mind.
Njoba ngishilo ke ngathi uma ngabe benza lento enye yamacebo abo amakhulu ukuthi babambe ingqondo yakho bayicontrol.
Listen what he says and what he thinks about you.
Awulalele lokho akushoyo nakucabangayo ngawe muntu.
The big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games. But this doesn't sound like a very appealing future.
Uthi umbuzo omkhulu sikhathi samanje se-economy ne-politics, ipolitiki. Umbuzo ukuthi abantu bebaningi kangaka emhlabeni o-8 billion. What do we need them for? Sibadinga ngani? Ngamanye amazwi uzama ukusho ukuthi baningi kakhulu. Kuyinkinga nje kwangathi bangancipha. Bese aqhubeke athi ngoba bambuza ngebhuku alibhalile. Uveza ukuthi khona lo mbuzo kwangathi inkinga ukuthi abantu baningi kakhulu emhlabeni nina njengoba sihlezi la siyinkinga kuyena sibaningi kakhulu. Sithatha ispace sakhe enama-billion yena. Kodwa siyinkinga ngoba sidla ukudla kwakhe. Uthi ebhukwini waveza isu. He had a solution. Ukuthi okwamanje asibajabulisa nje, we just keep them busy. Ngani? Drugs and computer games. Usho yena. So he wants your mind to shrink until you're a zombie. And then he can do with you anything he likes.
Kusho ukuthi ke inhloso yakhe ukuthi umqondo wakho awubambe ungawusebenzisi akucontrol lokunciphile ugcina umuntu nje awazi ukuzicabangela.
That's why I said we need to start exercising our minds, doing some stretching exercises, asking some critical questions about life.
Yikho ngithe kudinga ukuthi umqondo wethu siqale siwusebenzise manje sibuze nemibuzo enzima maqondana nempilo.
And as you saw, he does not only attack your mind, he also attacks your faith. That you believe, that is precious for you, he breaks that down.
Futhi njoba sizwele akagcini kuphela ngokuhlasela umqondo, uhlasela nokukholwa kwakho lokhu wena okholelwa kukho okuyigugu kwena ikhona inyathela phezukwakho.
Now I just want to ask that we put the sound off for the next clip. I want to demonstrate to you how they are attacking your faith by introducing Satanism in the world.
Ngifuna ukuveza ke manje ukuthi ukukholwa bakuhlasela kanjani ngokuletha isatanism emhlabeni.
I showed you the two people or the two persons that the battle is between, light and darkness, the Lord Jesus and Satan.
Nginikhombisile isithombe ekuqaleni ukuthi lempi le ekhona ikuphi ibhekene nakuphi iphakathi kokukhanya nobumnyama okuthi phakathi kukaJesu noSathane.
Now sometimes Satan comes like a wolf, or he is a wolf, but he puts a sheep skin over him that you think is a sheep.
uSathane eyimpisi la iyona kwesisikhathi uza efaka isikhumba semvu eyishasa ngathi uyimvu.
But sometimes he doesn't waste time and he just walks around with his horns and his tail.
Kodwa sikhona isikhathi la engayifihli nokuyifihla vele aqhamuke nje owuSathane obala eneyimpondo.
So Satanists, this is in America, possibly in other countries, are putting in a drive to introduce Satanism to children at school.
Ama-Satanists eMelika nakwamanye amazwe mhlawumbe babhizi manje bafuna ukufaka ubuSatanist inkolo kaSathane ezikoleni.
And they are presenting Satanism as something that's fashionable and fun and harmless.
Lento yeSatanism bayifaka bayingenisa kube ngathi into engenabungozi kube ngathi into nje enhle ukuthi umuntu angaba kuyona.
And they target young children.
Futhi baqondise behlasela kakhulu izingane.
So they say Satan is not an evil guy.
Bathi uSathana akayena umuntu omubi.
He just wants you to have fun and be yourself.
Ufuna nje ukuthi ujabule ube uwena.
And remember, there is no hell.
Baze bathi khumbula sikho isikhoko. Bathi uSathana uyabasiza abafana namantombazana. Sathana akamubi ufuna nje wena ukuthi ufunde ukujabule ungabi nankinga. Futhi bathi asikho isikhoko. Bathi sonke sihlukile. uSathane uyophatha bonke abantu ngokulingana noma unsundu noma umhlophe noma ngabe uyigay. uSathane naye nomuntu osabisayo ufuna ukuthi ujabule thokoze ube wena nje. Bathi futhi khumbula sikho isikhoko. Bathi isikhoko akuyonto yangempela. Bathi empeleni mase kwenzeke konke kwaSathane lo akekho into nje sicabangayo thina engqondweni yethu. Bathi uSathane akayena umuntu osabisayo funa nje wena ukuthi uyithokozise ujabule ube wena. Futhi khumbula asikho isikhoko. Sathane akayena umuntu omubi. Ufuna ukuba ufunde futhi ubuze izinto ukuthi kwenzakalani ube wena. Asikho isikhoko.
Okay, we're getting closer to the goal that we want to score today.
Sesiyasondela ke emapalini kuleli goal esifuna ukuthi silikore namhlanje.
But you need to understand that there are bigger powers that are behind the scene, that have got a plan, and they are pushing this thing.
Kodwa udinga ukuthi uqonde ukuthi khona amandla amakhulu adlala ngale kusithekeni aneplan futhi afuna ukuyidudula lento.
Have any of you in your society, community, or read in the news about a child that has gone missing?
Ukhona yini kinina osuka mhlambe emphakathini asuka kuwo noma ifunde ephephandabeni emsakazweni kanjalo kuthiwa khona ingane elahlekile?
Just these days, here, just a few kilometers, a little child went missing. They still haven't found her.
Kulezi insuku nje la budebuduze nathi la ekhaya kukhona ingane elahlekile ayikatholakala.
Do you know that they estimate at least 2 million children get trafficked every year across the world?
Uyazi ukuthi bahlambisela ukuthi ingane eziyizigidi ezimbili 2 million ezishushumbiswayo ezweni unyaka nonyaka.
That's about a 32 or 35 billion industry.
Leyo nhlangano leyo noma leso sikhungu senza imali enkulu ebalelwa kumabhiliyoni.
These children are sold to pedophiles. Those are old people that want to have sex with little children.
Lezi ngane lezi zishushumbiswayo ziyathatha zidayisele lama pedophiles labo abantu abadala abakhulile kodwa bathanda ukuthi benze ucansi nezingane ezincane.
They are used in the child pornography industry, in
Ziyatha-
child sacrifice, satanic ritual abuse of children, and many other terrible things.
Ziyathatha lezi ngane zisetshenziswe uma kwenziwa izithombe noma ama video pornography izithombe zabanqunu zithathwe ezinye kuyonikelwa ngazo makwenziwa umhlatshelo nezinye izinto zeSatanism nokunye okuningi.
these crimes happen despite the laws that are in place to protect children and that send a pedophile to prison, or that send somebody in possession of child pornography to prison if they are caught.
Lezi zinto ziyenzeka phezulu ukuthi ukhona imithetho ekhona ebekiwe esho ukuthi umuntu wenza lezi zinto njengama pedophile lawo siwachazile ukuthi mabezenza lezi zinto kumele bathathwe bafakwe ejele.
People that are actively involved in Satan worship do terrible, terrible things with children. I won't even mention it.
Abantu abangene kulezi zinto ze-satanism benza izinto engeke uzuyicabanga ezingakhulumeki empeleni abazenza ngezingane.
Now we know that when there are laws, like laws against child molesters, pedophiles, it is to protect the children.
Siyazi thina ukuthi mangabe khona imithetho evimba abantu laba njengama pedophile sesile ukuthi abantu abadala abafuna kulala nezingane imithetho evimba ukuthi ungasetshenziswa ingane kwizithombe zopornography lokhu kwenzela ukuthi kuvikele ingane.
And despite those laws being there, you still have 2 million children disappearing every year.
Kodwa phezulu ukuthi khona imithetho enjalo ebekiwe usathola ukuthi kunezingane eziko 2 million ezilahleka unyaka nonyaka.
Now, just to make a comparison, government puts rules and implements things, put things in place to protect children on their way to school when they have to cross the road. They teach them road safety.
Ohulumeni bazama ukuthi ingane zivikeleke ezinye zalezo zinto abazenza ukuthi ingane zingashayiswa kalula imoto bayifundisa imithetho yomgwaqo ukuze zingalimali.
If we can just put the sound down, then I can continue speaking while we're looking at this clip. So this is what government in the Western Cape are doing to protect children from being hit by a car, being driven over.
Lezithombe zikahulumeni wale eKapa kufundisa ingane ukuthi zingashayiswa imoto emgaqweni.
They teach the children when to stop, how to walk, where to walk, and at the same time they have road signs for the drivers, speed limits, be careful of children, stop, also to protect the children.
Bayifundisa ingane ukuthi zingahambi kwezinye indawo zingahamba kuphi nabashayeli futhi kube namasayini emgaqweni abaxwayisayo ukuthi qaphelani kunezingane la.
Can you imagine what will happen if tomorrow government suddenly gets a bee in their bonnet and they say, you know what, we need to stop discriminating against drivers that feel that they should always be allowed to drive as fast as they like.
Ungathini nje uma ohulumeni bangavele bathi hayi lemthetho yasemgaqweni uthi akunakela ingane yabaxwasa driver kumele sibadedele bashayele o driver bafuna ukushayela noma ngasiphi isivinini noma ilaphi bakhululeke.
You know, if there's a driver who feels that a stop sign doesn't apply to me, for me it means go, we must respect them.
Bathi uma kuno driver obona ukuthi hayi i-stop sign mina asingithinti mangithanda ukudlula nje noma une stop sign ngovele ngihambele.
What will you think of that?
Kungaba njani makunjalo?
Does that make any sense?
Kungaba into enomqondo leyo.
Now back to the United Nations and the world powers.
Buyeleke kwi-United Nations neziphathimandla zezwe.
Our president, our government said they'll work together with them to forge a new world order.
Ohulumeni bethu bathi bawusebenzisana ukuze kupheleliswe lento ye-New World Order.
Part of that focuses on education.
Ingxenye enkulu yalokho ibhekene nezemfundo.
It's called Agenda 2030.
Bakubiza ukuthi Agenda 2030.
And one of their aims and goals in this new education curriculum, which they want all countries that cooperate with them to roll out and to in their schools and to teach the kids, is that children should become sexual beings from a much younger age. They should start engaging in sex and know about sex from a very young age.
Enye into engxenye yale Agenda 2030 ukuthi ingane kusukela zisencane kudinga ukuthi zikwazi izinto ezenzakalayo ngezocansi zifundiswe zize zingene nakho kukho kusukela kuminyaka ephansi.
This is not a fairy tale. You can find this on internet.
Lento akuyona nje into esikhulumayo inganekwane kodwa into ekhona ungaze uyithole noma uya ku internet.
This is just a summary of the curriculum. It's not the textbook. I can't show you the textbook. That would be showing you pornography.
Lena nje into ecashunwe kwisamari yayo le curriculum lemfundiso abazoyifaka angikwazi ukuthi nganivezela i-textbook ezosetshenziswa ingane ngenxa yamanyala phakathi kuyona.
The curriculum starts with 0 to 4 years. In other words, daycare center.
Kusho ukuthi ke le curriculum noma lesifundiso indlela esihlelwe ngayo ukufundisa ingane kusukela kweyisanda ukuzalwa kuya ku 4 years kusho ukuthi bese secreche.
Can you tell me how you are going to build up this nation of South Africa by teaching 4-year-olds about sex?
Awungitshela ukuthi isizwe sakithi eningizimu Afrika uyosakha kanjani uma ufundisa ingane eseneminyaka ewu4 kuphela ngendaba zocansi.
9 to 12-year-olds, you must already have a sexual partner. You must already be taught and exposed to pornography at school.
Zisencane kuneminyaka ewu9 kuya ku12 kuthiwa kumele ukuthi ngabe usunaye umuntu othandana naye usungena ezintweni zocansi.
Remember, we said the battle is for your soul, for your life, for your mind, for your future.
Khumbula ukuthi sithe impi ekhona impi eqonde ukuhlasela ikusasa lakho eqonde ukuhlasela umqondo wakho.
And Satan uses institutions in the world to implement his plan.
Usathana usebenzisa izinhlangano ezikhona la emhlabeni kuzwelonke ukuze aphumelelise aphasise icebo lakhe.
Okay, now we're getting to something that you maybe all can relate to.
Mhlawumbe sesizongena kwinto manje mhlawumbe abanye benu bayazi.
And you need to clearly understand that this is not against the LGBTQ community.
Kumele siqonde ngokusobala lokhu ukuthi lokhu akuyona into emelene nalaba kuthiwa LGBT ama gay or lesbian kanjalo.
These days, Woolworths had a campaign
Kulezi insuku isitolo sidumile la ekuthiwa Woolworths besikade sikhona bekade sikwenza sikukhangisa.
They called it Be an Ally, meaning be a friend, celebrating Pride 2023.
Bebethi ba umhlobo ngenelela nayo kulento yePride ka2023 uyigubhe.
They put some signs up in the shops, and many people were very unhappy for different reasons.
Bebefake izithombe ezitolo abanye abantu abakujabulelanga lokho.
People wrote to the CEO of Woolworths, said, "We're unhappy for this and that reason." And he wrote back and he said, "You don't understand. This is just about accepting everybody, loving everybody, and having compassion for all people."
Abanye baze bambhalela umphathi omkhulu kwaWoolworths ukuthi asiyithandi lento yena uphendula ukuthi hayi ingoba nina niqondi lokho esikwenzayo kwale Pride 2023 senze ukuthi samukelane siyabantu sisebenzisane.
So he claims to understand that Pride and celebrating Pride Month is acknowledging people in the LGBTQ community and speaking up for their human rights.
Yena ngokuqonda kwakhe ukuthi lento yePride ukuthi abantu kumele baqonde emphakathini yabo kukhulunyelwe futhi namalungelo abantu.
Now I want to show you this afternoon that the Pride agenda or the Pride campaign has been hijacked by the powers in the world to achieve something totally different while you don't realize it.
Manje ngifuna ukunivezela ke emini namhlanje ukuthi lento yePride agenda yePride kunabantu asebeyithathile iziphathimandla sezithathile ezifuna ukuyisebenzisela lokho wena ongaqondi ukuthi bazokusebenzisela ini.
But they use it as a front to say we are standing up for the rights of the LGBTQ community, so that people will be hesitant to say anything against it, because the moment you say something against it, they say that's hate speech or that's discrimination.
bafuna ukuyisebenzisela lento ye-pride kube yona into abayibeka phambili abacasha ngayo ngoba uma ngabe bekhuluma okusobala abantu bazothi hayi bacwasa abantu abathize.
So in America, the real agenda inside of Pride has become much more obvious than here in South Africa.
eMelika i-agenda ye-pride khona isibe sobala kakhulu ngaphezu kwala eNingizimu Afrika.
So there was a chain store in America that had a big range of clothing celebrating Pride Month, but there were certain things that upset the American community so much that they boycotted them and they lost billions and billions of dollars in a few days.
eMelika nakhona bekunesitolo ebesiqhakambise yona le ndaba ye-pride, abanye abantu bangajabula bamelana nakho salahlekelwa imali eyinkulu leso sitolo.
At the same time that they are pushing the Pride agenda, they are also pushing the Satanism agenda.
Ngaleso sikhathi befaka le agenda ye-pride khona lapho bafaka i-agenda ye-satanism.
That's what they do.
Benza lokho
And then they combine the two.
bazihlanganisa ke lezi zinto zombili.
So this man has a t-shirt that says Satan respects pronouns.
Njoba ubona lo muntu uthisha ukhuluma lapha ya.
Okay, so here's a promotional clip of some of the children's clothes that was being sold in that same shop.
Kulesa sitolo kudayiswa neimpahla zeingane. Impahla zeingane izo lezi.
That pentagram, that star that you see is a satanic symbol.
Le yankanyezi uphawu lwe-satanism.
So what are they achieving by selling children's clothes with satanic symbols on?
Manje bazuza nini ukuthi badayise impahla zeingane ezinalezi impawu ze-satanism?
They're making Satanism to be just normal in society and that there's nothing wrong with it.
Bafuna ukuthi i-satanism emphakathini yethu kube yinto nje ejwayelekile engaxwaya muntu.
There's some people celebrating Pride Month in America,
Lana isemelika abantu begubha i-Pride Month.
and they painted the name Satan on their flag.
Njengoba ubona bafake igama elithi Satan kwiflag yabo.
So I told you about the United Nations that is pushing a curriculum into schools across the world that is sexualizing little children.
Ngitshelile ke inhlangano lezi zizwe ezama ukuthi zifake imfundiso yezocansi ezikoleni zethu.
But that's the theoretical part, coming from the authorities via government.
Leyo ke into eqhamuka kulezi iziphathimandla thina sesithola ngohulumeni bakithi.
But remember, they're looking at the whole field. They're looking at all the players, from the strikers all the way back to the goalkeeper.
Kodwa khumbula la enkundleni yebhola njengoba senzile isibonelo eqaleni babuka bonke abadlali babuka kusola kwi-striker kuze kuyofika ku-goalkeeper.
And I can see, even though we're targeting the children, but that defender there at the back, that father and that mother are going to cause a problem for us.
Bayabuka ukuthi nakuba thina sifuna iy'ngane kodwa loya mzali loya mama naloya baba kwangathi bazoba inkinga kuthina.
We need to also neutralize them. We need to get them to accept what we're going to bring to the children.
Sidinga ukuthi nalabazali laba sibakhiphe kulomqondo omdala kodwa sibenze ukuthi nabo bavume bathambe kulento esifuna ukuyifaka ey'nganeni.
So here's an event. It says drag the kids to Pride. So what is this drag thing about?
Manje naku lana kuthiwa donsa izingane ziye ku-pride. Yini lento ekhulunywa ngayo?
There's something in America that they call a drag queen.
eMelika kunento abayibiza uthi i-drag queen.
It's a man who dresses up like a lady, but it's also always very sexual and very provocative.
Owesifazane noma owesilisa ogqoka nje owesifazane uzenza owesifazane lo wesilisa kodwa indlela agqoka ngayo uzama ukuziveza nomzimba wakhe.
Typically, these people perform at nightclubs and adult entertainment venues.
Ngokujwayelekile lama drag queens labantu laba abantu abahamba beyodansa kuma nightclub endaweni ezingena abantu abadala kuphela.
But now government, using education as a tool, says, you know what, let's take these drag queens and during the day send them to schools to go and read stories to the children, and it's called the Drag Queen Story Hour.
Manje kabanye uhulumeni bathi sithathe bona laba abantu laba baye ezikoleni bawufundela izingane amabhuku kube nehora nje lokuthi kuzongena lo hlobo lwabantu ema-library babafundela izincwadi.
Now this specific drag queen is dressed very, very well.
Lona ke simbona esithombeni mawuqhathanisa ukuthi bagqoka kanjani cha yena ugqoke kahle.
I can't show you what they typically look like when they're reading the stories to the kids and sometimes dancing with the kids, because I will be showing you pornography.
Angifuni ukunivezela ukuthi benzani bagqoka kanjani futhi noma sebethatha izingane ezincane bedansa nabo nazo basuke begqoke kanjani mangathi inivezela lokho nobuka izinto ezingamanyala.
This is not something that they want to do. This is happening in America. And if we toe the pride line, it will start happening here soon.
Lento hayi ukuthi into abahlongoza ukuyenza into esiyenzeka kakade eMelika uma nathi sizovuma kuqhamuke nje kancane ngalento ye-pride kuyogcina kulandela imikhuba enjengale.
Can we just have some volume, please? Just listen to what this drag queen says. She's one of the top 20 in the world.
Asilalele ukuthi ithini le drone.
Hello, my name is Alaska. I'm going to be in Cape Town, South Africa on December 20th. I'll see you there. Ah!
Okay. We're almost in injury time, so we need to rush. They are already coming to South Africa. You just haven't seen them in the schools because for now they're only in the nightclubs.
Sesicishe sibekwe injury time ngakho ke kumele sithi kushesha sebekhona nala kwelakithi kodwa kabakangene ezikoleni base kuma nightclubs.
This is another drag queen that came to South Africa.
I am finally on my way. On the 28th, I'm going to be in Johannesburg, and on the 29th, I'm going to be in Cape Town. I have been looking forward to coming to South Africa for such a...
Okay, because of time, I'm going to skip. That's another picture of her on her Instagram account. It gets much, much, much worse. Full-blown pornography.
Omunye wabo lo mangabe sebekuma social media ku Instagram kodwa kuba izinto ezimkhuba kakhulu kunalo.
So they are sending these people, the way they dressed, the way they behave, to children to interact with children and sometimes even invite the parents. They call it a family-friendly drag event, so that people can start getting used to these people that, you know what, maybe it's not so bad, maybe we can live with it.
Manje ke laba bantu laba lamadoda ayiguqula zenza abesifazane kanje begqoka ngalendlela abagqoke ngayo kuzingane kubona sixoxe nabo kwesikhathi kuze kubizwe nabazali kuthiwa usuku lemndeni benzela lokhu kuze kugcine kuyinto ejwayelekile abantu emphakathini bathi hayi akubi kakhulu mhlawumbe singaphila vele nalaba bantu.
This is another Pride celebration festival.
Le enye ingxenye noma enye umcimbi bukhona gujwa iPride.
You saw Pride in Woolies, you haven't seen anything.
Uma ubona iPride eWoolworths, hayi awukaboni lutho.
But we always manage to eventually follow the West.
Kodwa ke kaningi izinto ezenzeka le phesheya zigcina sezifika nala kwelakithi.
These festivals need to advertise themselves as family friendly because unless you say it's family friendly, people don't go there because naturally they're not family friendly.
Abantu badinga ukuthi baze bayikhangise lezinto bethi izinto zemndeni zinhle emndenini ukuze baheha abantu ukuthi beze khona.
Here, little children wanting to buy a fridge magnet at a Pride store.
Kulesitolo lesi sePride ingane zifuna ukuthenga lama magnet esesibone kuhlotshiswa ngawo emafrijini.
And on those magnets, you find all types of adult sexual terms.
Manje ke kubhalwe yonke into lana izinto ezijwayele ukuthi zibone abantu abadala kuphela.
Including sent nudes. Now, you know, I'm sure you've experienced the problem that South African schools have with sexting, where children send naked pictures of themselves to one another, and the next thing, it's all over the school, and the child is stressed out and maybe even commits suicide.
Sithuleni ukuze silalelane but enye izinto abayifuna ukuyidayisela ingane umbhalo njengalo obhalwe lana ukuthi thumelelani izithombe ezinqunu okuyinkinga esikhona vele ezikoleni zala eNingizimu Afrika ingane zithumelani lezo yithombe.
That is what you can buy at a Pride store.
Umbuya ke kulama Pride store ungakwazi ukuthenga izinto ezinje.
If you know what that means, you know. I hope you don't know what that means. It has to do with things that pertain to adults and sexual things, and they're exposing that to a young child.
Manje ngithemba ukuthi anikwazi lokho kula kulesithombe ngoba la benza izinto kaningi ezithintene zenziwa abantu abadala kodwa bafuna ukuthi izingane zisencane bayifake kuzona.
The bottom line is that the agenda is to sexualize children, to make them part of the sexual community, to groom children, and to subsequently normalize pedophilia.
Kodwa ke yona agenda inhloso ekhona la ukuthi izingane zithi zisencane zijwayeze izinto izenzo zocansi zikhule nje seziphansi kwalokho.
Now, just to remember, what you see play out on the streets of America correlates 100% with the curriculum that the United Nations is rolling out to children across the world.
Lokho kubona kwenzeka emgaqweni yaseMelika kuhambisana naloko ohulumeni obathola befuna ukufaka ezikoleni emhlabeni wonke jikelele.
And just to give you another angle of who supports the Pride campaign, that it comes from the top. It's not the LGBTQ community that have orchestrated this. There's another agenda behind it, and it's coming from a much higher power.
Ukunivezela ukuthi indaba yePride isukaphi akona inhlangano zama lesbians zama gay abenza lokho kodwa into esuka phezulu le abafuna ukuyifaka.
So this is at the Rockefeller Center. It's one of the institutions that's closely affiliated with the World Economic Forum and the United Nations.
Lena amahhovisi amakhulu ezinye zeinhlangano ezisebenzisana ne-United Nations.
So to celebrate Pride, they took all the national flags of the different countries that belong to the United Nations off, and they flew the Pride flag.
Kuleya ndawo ngokujwayelekile kugcwele ama-flag amazwe onke ngaphansi kwe-United Nations kodwa ngalesikhathi begubha iPride basusa wonke lawo ma-flag kwafakwa ama-flag ePride.
If we can just put the volume off, please. This is what was happening in England. They were hanging up Pride flags, and then they took down the national flag.
IseNgilandi lana bakhipha ama-flag ezwe lakhona kwafakwa lama-flag wePride.
Can you imagine that happening to our flag?
Ngicabanga ukuthi njengoba iflag lezwe lihlonipheke kangaka mase lilaxazwa kanjena kuphakanyiswa ele pride.
We just put the volume off again, please. They are supporting the Pride agenda. It's your police, your firefighters, your servicemen that are paid with taxpayer dollars. They raise the Pride flag together with the national flag while they salute.
Amaphoyisa lawa, ama-firefighters kwezomlilo, abantu abahloniphekile abaholelwa ohulumeni njalo ngemali yentela kodwa sebemi nabo behambisa phambili lo mkhankaso wePride.
The battle is for your mind,
Impi ekhona bhekiswe emqondweni wakho
keep you happy with drugs and computer games, then you're out the way.
uma wena ungahlala nje udlele idakamizwa udlala ama games kuma computer kuma phone bathi kungcono lokho kuzongaphazamisi.
Then we're going to come for your children and make them sex objects for our pedophiles.
Emva kwalokho solanda ingane zenu zisenze kuba kube izinto nje zocansi ezizosetshenziswa yilabo esitha ama pedophiles abantu abadala abathanda ingane ezincane.
We're going to make the whole of society to accept this new normal.
Sowenza ukuthi imphakathi yonke yamukele lento kube into entsha isikompilo elisha.
We're going to teach your little kids at creche about sex.
Siyofundisa ingane zenu ema-creche zisencane ngezocansi.
And then we are going to come for your country, for your national sovereignty.
Emva kwalokho siyohlasela izwe lenu siphuce isidima sezwe.
You're going to think you've got a government and a national anthem and a flag, but it won't mean anything because we, who are the world powers, will control everything you do and think.
Uyocabanga ukuthi unohulumeni nine flag nineculo lezwe kodwa kube ngasasho lutho lokho ngoba thina njengeziphathimandla ezile phezulu sobe sesifikile sesicontrola konke.
Before I continue, I just want to go back to one point I forgot. Once they have normalized pedophilia, once we all accept that, you know what, maybe it's not so bad if a 3-year-old and a 50-year-old have a sexual relationship, then they will remove the law that puts pedophiles in jail. They'll remove the law that locks up grown-up people that rape and molest little children, and it will be normal.
Uma sebekwazile ukuphumelelisa lento abafuna ukuyifaka kuyogcina sekujwayeleka kubantu ukuthi hayi indoda endala eneminyaka ewu50 ngazwana nengane esencane neminyaka ewu8 kube yinto nje ejwayelekile. Uma sekujwayeleka sebeyowususa ke lo mthetho ukuthi uma umuntu enze njalo uyehlukumeza ingane sokuba into ejwayelekile ukuthi angakwenza kunankinga.
That's the president of America having a pride party at the presidential residence.
Umongameli wase Melika obevele lapha ya benomcimbi wePride emahhovisi wakhe.
And he hung the 2 American flags, the national flags, these flags of America. He hung on the side and he hung the pride flag in the middle, which is the position of honor, the seat of honors in the middle.
Uthatha iflag yePride ifaka phakathi nendawo okuyiyona ndawo kumele kuhlale iflag ehloniphekile eyezwe lakhe iMelika.
Now, I couldn't nearly illustrate to you what is really happening in America and how children are being exposed to pornography on the street in real life.
Angikwazi ukuthi nganivezela nginichazele kabanzi ngempela into eyenzakalayo emazweni kakhulukazi eMelika indlela ekuhlunyezwa ngayo ingane.
These days, some people in America in different areas were celebrating Pride. They had a march walking down the street, and all of them, grown-up people, stark naked.
Kulezi insuku eMelika bebekade begubha yona iPride abantu behle emgaqweni abantu abadala kodwa behamba nje benqunu.
even though it's against the law of the country to be nude in public, but because they were celebrating Pride, they could be stark naked in front of little children.
nakuba kuphambene nomthetho wezwe ukuthi umuntu angahamba nje ehambaze emgaqweni kodwa nxa uthi bekusuku lokugubha iPride kwadedeleka nje wavumeleka ukuthi bakwenze lokho.
Now we've run out of time.
Sesiphelile isikhathi sethu.
Our forefathers
Okhokho bethu
gave their lives for this country.
banikela ngokuphila kwabo ngenxa yalelizwe.
They were prepared to fight, to give their last drop of blood, to be able to say, this is our country.
Babelwa bezimisela ukuthi bachithe iconsi lokugcina legazi labo ngoba bethi silwela izwe lethu izwe lethu lethu.
This particular battle, the Battle of Isandlwana, it happened not very far from here. The Zulus fought against the English.
Njengoba sazi impi yaseSandlwane yenzeka le ngasenquthu abakwaZulu bebhekene namangisi.
We had the Anglo-Boer Wars. We had many wars, but it was all about we want to be who we are. We want to have a land that belongs to us, that will be ruled by us.
Kwaba nezimpi eziningi Anglo-Boer War impi yaseNcome kanjalo lapha abantu bebelwa khona bethi silwela umhlaba wethu silwela izwe lethu silwela ubuthina.
These days, a member of parliament or a minister from Uganda spoke at the European Union.
Kulezi insuku ngqongqoshe waseUganda ukhulumele ku-European Union.
Because of time, I would have loved to play snippets from her speech where she explains what Uganda has been criticized for, how it has been distorted, and how they will never sacrifice protecting their children and giving away their sovereignty as a nation to other people, to other foreigners.
Uyakhuluma lo ngqongqoshe ukuthi eUganda abantu bayiphambanisa njengoba sazi ukuthi uGanda imelene kakhulu nalemthetho eqhamuka emazweni aphesheya kodwa uthi bona nje eUganda ngeke bavume ukuthi banikele ngezwe labo kulemkhuba eyenzakalayo.
The way in which Satan is playing his game in America and in the West at the moment, he is scoring home goals. It means it's to our advantage because he has broken his cover and he has exposed himself for who he really is.
Ngendlela uSathane aphumela ubalelwa ngayo kulamazwe njengase Europe eMelika singathi ngalokho wenza ama own goals. Ngalokho ke kuyasiza ngoba phela sesiyabona ukuthi wenzani futhi uhloseni.
If we are not going to stand up and use this opportunity to fight for the freedom and the future of our children and of our country, we may never have an opportunity again.
Uma thina singasukumi ukusebenzisa leli thuba silwela izwe lakithi silwela ikusasa lethu mhlawumbe ngeke siphinde silithole enye ithuba.
It's time that we start holding the big business and our government accountable for how they are leading us and what they are enforcing on us.
Sekuyisikhathi sokuthi manje sibenze baziphendulele osomabhizinisi nohulumeni bethu ngendlela abasihola ngayo.
Now we would have liked to still discuss and to think about what we can do.
Singathanda ukuthi ngaba khona ithuba lokuthi siqhubeke ngale ngxoxo sizwe futhi nokuthi ikuphi esingakwenza.
There's a lot more one could say, but even if it's just triggered something in your mind and in your heart to say, you know what, maybe everything is not what I thought it was.
Mhlambi umanje emqondweni wakho ungaba khona lokuthi subona kangcono manje ukuthi izinto azinjengalendlela ebengade ngiyibona ngayo ngaphambili.
But it doesn't only help that we understand the game of the enemy we need to also be fit. We need to be equipped and we need to have a plan.
Kodwa ngeke usisize ukuthi sigcine ukwazi kuphela ukuthi isitha sona silwa kanjani, kodwa nathi kumele sibe abantu abafit, kumele kube abantu futhi abanalo iplan ukuthi siyolwa kanjani ke nalesitha.
And you saw at the beginning who our leader is, who our captain is.
Bonile ekuqaleni ukuthi ubani ongukapteni wethu.
And he offers us the cross.
Uyena usipha isiphambano.
He says if we stay near the cross, if we hold onto the cross, we will be victorious.
Uthi uma sibambelele esiphambanweni, uma sihlala eduze kwesiphambano, siyonqoba.
That's the golden key. We need to be protected by his blood so that we can conquer Satan.
Wona khiye wegolide lo sidingayo, sidinga ukuthi sivikelwe ngegazi lakhe ukuze simnqobe uSathane.
He has conquered Satan. The victory is secure, but if I'm not going to be under the protection of his blood, I will be overcome by Satan's deception.
Yena usamnqobe uSathane, kodwa uma ngeke ngibe phansi kwegazi lakhe, ngiyokhohliseka ngenkohliso kaSathane.
Whether I'm a parent, whether I'm a child, I need to be right with God.
Noma ngingumzali noma ngiyingane, ngidinga ukuthi ngibe sesimene kuyisona, ngibuyisene noNkulunkulu.
Thank you very much for your time. Now, before I sit down and hand over to the MC,
Ngiyabonga kakhulu ngesikhathi senu, phama ukuthi ngihlale phansi, ngishiyele kumphathi wohlelo.
there are a few people who have already started thinking.
Khona mhlamba abanye sebeqalile ukucabanga,
They've woken up and they've seen the danger.
sebephapheme bayibona ingozi.
And they're starting to exercise, they're starting to train,
Sebeyaqala manje ukuyilungiselela, sebeyayivocavoca.
and they're starting to plan.
Bayaplana futhi.
So we'd like to see what they are planning,
Sithanda ukubona ukuthi ikuphi abakuplanayo.
or we'd like to see who they are.
Sithanda ukubona futhi nokuthi obani.
I don't know if the sound desk can help us.
Angazi noma bangasisiza yini abesound.
Mama Hlongwane,
Cela sibashayele izandla. Ngaw bakithi. Ay, siyabonga kakhulu.
Thank you very much.
Siyabonga. Cela siphinde sibashayele ihlombe.
Nkosi sike